Welcome to today's episode of our program Daily Debate. As usual, we will be speaking about an important topic, Egyptian topic. Tonight we'll be focusing on the keenness of the leadership and the government to exert the utmost efforts in order to be able to serve the citizens. This was very much illustrated by the President during many of the ceremonies he attended. The President has always stressed that all development projects mainly focus on serving the citizens everywhere across the country. And he said that through development and the presidential initiatives, there was a kind of balance between going on with or on track for developing the country and at the same time trying as much as possible to lift the burden from the citizens. The new was the declaration of the President last year of the year 2022 to be the year of civil society. The President has been for years calling on the civil society and the private sector to engage into the efforts exerted by the government in order to be able to confront together, hand in hand, the challenges that are facing the enormous challenges that are facing the country, and came the establishment of the National Alliance for Civil Development Work, and it was already established in 2022, and it has a pivotal role to play in the development process in Egypt, and at the same time support the social protection networks. We'll be speaking tonight of those efforts and what we have achieved so far, what we need at this upcoming stage, how do we need to engage all contributions in order to be able to together confront the upcoming stage. Before we delve into our discussion, let me first have a quick look on the top stories of the day. And President Abdel al-Sisi met with Dr. Amr Talat, Minister of Communication and Information Technology, Lieutenant General Ahmed al-Shazli, Head of the Financial Affairs Authority of the Armed Forces, and Major General Staff Bakr al-Bayoumi, Director of the Signal Department of the Armed Forces. Presidential spokesman, Councillor Ahmed Fahmy, stated that the meeting witnessed the follow-up of efforts to develop the technological and information infrastructure across the country within the framework of the state's strategic plan for the digital transformation. The President also reviewed the executive position of the Unified National Network for Emergencies and Public Safety, which connects all emergency elements and vital facilities such as ambulances, healthcare, rescue and civil protection agencies. The President also gave his directives to continue the intensive work to enhance the state's capabilities in the field of communications and information technology and to secure optimal operations of the emergency and public safety system that would enable a speedy response by the state's institutions to all emergencies and crises, stressing the importance of making every effort to facilitate the daily life of citizens, saving their time and effort in achieving the highest levels of security, safety for the Egyptian citizen. Moving on to our next top story of the day, and also on Thursday, President Sisi received a delegation of heads and representatives of a number of major international companies, Chinese, French and Swiss, operating in the field of management and operations, shipping lines and international container terminals, in attendance of Lieutenant General Kamel Wazir, Minister of Transportation, and Lieutenant General Ahmed Khalid, Commander of the Strategic Command, who supervises military industrialization, Lieutenant General Ashraf Ataba, Commander of the Naval Forces. Presidential spokesman, Councillor Ahmed Fahmy, said the meeting comes in light with the government's agreement with an alliance that includes Hutchison Ports Companies, the COS CEO, CMA, Terminals and MSC to establish, manage, operate, exploit, maintain and redeliver two container terminals in the ports of Sukhna and Dakhila, rather Sukhna, from Sukhna to Dakhila. with the investments estimated at about $1.6 billion, as the two terminals would add to the capacity of the Egyptian ports to up to 5 million terminals per year, which represents an increase of 50% of the Egyptian ports to deal with containers trade capacity. During the meeting, the attendees expressed their optimism about the future of investment in Egypt in light of the advanced thoughts that aim at creating conducive atmosphere for business, which aim to maximize the benefit from the integrated modernization of the infrastructure, whether at the level of seaports, roads, and transportation network that link them, especially the speedy electric train that connects between the production and the consumption areas. This spokesman added that the president affirmed Egypt's keenness to enhance cooperation with the global alliance of companies within the framework of the state's endeavor to implement the project to establish the Sokhna Dakhila integrated logistic hub for containers, which is the largest integrated logistic corridor to serve global trade between East and West by linking the Red Sea and the Mediterranean. At the same time, opens up for more job opportunities. And we move on to the third top story of the day, and Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli has stressed that his tour at the Suez Canal Economic Zone aims to inaugurate and stand on a number of industrial projects carried out by the private sector in the area. Dr. Madbouli paid a visit on Thursday to Ain Sokhna Port and the Suez Canal Zone to follow up the implementation progress of a number of projects carried out there, noting that the tour is part of the state's keenness to encourage and attract such projects to propel investments and support national economy. The Premier was accompanied by Agriculture Minister Said Al-Qusayr, Industry Minister Ahmed Samir, Suez Governor Abdel, Head of the General Authority of the Suez Canal Economic Zone, Walid Gamal al-Din, and a host of respective officials. Dr. Madbouli witnessed the opening of the logistics center of Mercedes-Benz in Sokhna Industrial Zone, and Gamal al-Din underlined the importance of the logistics center, stressing that the project contributes to attracting investments of major international companies in different fields to help achieve the goals of the Sustainable Development Strategy of Egypt's Vision 2030. And finally, our final top story of the day: the armed forces participated in the medical conference, First Ghoneim Day, to celebrate the 2-year anniversary of the launch of the Ghoneim project in partnership with the Academy Scientific Research and Technology and the sponsorship of the Alia Mina International Company. This came within the framework of the directives of President Abdel al-Sisi to implement the reference Ghoneim project for Egyptians, which was announced in March 2021. The conference activities began with a speech by Major General Dr. Khalid Amir, head of the Center for Medical Research and Regenerative Medicine of the Armed Forces, during which he conveyed the greetings and appreciation of Lieutenant General Mohammed Zaki, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of Defense and Military Production, and Lieutenant General Osama Askar, Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces, to the attendees, stressing that the Ghoneim project is the largest project, the largest scientific project in the history of modern Egypt, which is the cornerstone of personal and accurate medicine and focus of all medical research during the coming years. Dr. Magdi Yaqub, the international cardiac surgeon, also indicated that the implementation of the Ghoneim project is a huge scientific breakthrough and that the project is a beacon for all researchers interested in Ghoneim research and provides an opportunity to study samples inside Egypt. Professor Dr. Muhammad Awad Tajuddin, advisor to the President President for Health and Prevention Affairs, delivered a speech in which he indicated that the Ghoneim project aims to draw a reference genetic map for Egyptians to treat various diseases and identify genetic factors affecting the response to the causes of epidemics. It also aims to study the reference genome of ancient Egyptians and their genes related to some common diseases in Egypt, such as heart disease, tumors, and genetic diseases. The conference was attended by Major General Dr. Eid Al-Tawil, advisor to the Minister of Defense for Medical Education and Prosthetic Device, a number of leaders of the armed forces, and a number of university professors in various medical edifices. Or these were the top stories of the day. Now we move on with our topic of tonight. And before we delve into our discussion, let me first have this quick report. And President Sisi directs to facilitate the daily life of citizens and secure the highest levels of their security and safety. Let's watch.
President Abdel al-Sisi has stressed that all development projects mainly focus on serving citizens everywhere, noting that the state is always keen to serve citizens in the countryside and Upper Egypt. The president's remarks came during his inspection of the progress realized so far in development projects carried out in Masara village in the Upper Egypt Governorate of Minya under the presidential initiative Decent Life. The head of state also praised great voluntary work made in Masara, which is the first model village in which Decent Life projects have been fully completed. The president was warmly welcomed by more than 1,500 volunteers participating in these development initiatives and projects. The president's visit aims to stand on the development progress made in the Upper Egyptian Governorate and New Minya city to provide a decent life for citizens there. President El-Sisi said he is proud of all youths and volunteers who contributed to carrying out development projects and voluntary works in the Upper Egypt Governorate of Minya. He thanked the volunteers over their great efforts, urging all young people to follow in their footsteps. The president also extended thanks to volunteers on behalf of all Egyptians and Minya inhabitants.
Right, welcome back, and ahead with our topic, let me welcome our distinguished guest, Dr. Abdel Wahab Ghoneim, Vice President of the Arab Union for Digital Economy. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Welcome.
Let me take here your reading. We have followed out altogether several events that was attended by the president, who is always keen to inaugurate and follow up with all the initiatives, inaugurations, projects, and even roads and even the social protection programs and presidential initiatives. Let me take here your reading to the statements of the president of the keenness to go in parallel development and at the same time serving the citizen. How do you view how we went on in that track?
I think His Excellency Mr. President Fattah al-Sisi and the government doing the best as they can during this global crisis. Now in the globe, all the countries suffering from sequential crisis, beginning from COVID-19 pandemic, Russian-Ukrainian war, slowing down the supply chain, shortage of foodstuff, especially the crops, and shortage of the energy. All these crises affected all the countries, especially the developing countries like Egypt. This is external forces pressing all over the world. This due to this crisis, most of the countries suffering from the increase of the inflation rate, the increase of in unemployment, the decrease of GDP rate, and all these crises doing a high pressure on the government. This is why Egypt, since more than 6 years, preparing in mega projects in parallel stages, especially to offer all the people something like decent life through the presidential initiatives.
Presidential
decent
initiative,
life.
One of the mega presidential
Yeah, this
initiatives.
is a mega one. And in the same time, doing a lot of mega projects, especially for the infrastructure, for railways, for new seaports and dry ports, and in education, in healthcare, and in social activities in different ways. This is why the government doing a lot of parallel projects, especially if we should on yesterday, His Excellency Mr. President opened the very high complex for nitrogen fertilizer.
Yes, indeed.
The producing around 1.7 million tons of fertilizing. We need these because we reducing the import, increasing the exports for these things. And we need this fertilizer because now we're cultivating 3.5 million feddans in the desert lands.
And this new also the Delta projects.
New Delta and in
Toshka.
Toshka and in Sinai.
Yes, indeed, we are expanding the areas of
this is we need this mega project because now there is a very shortage in the crops all over the world. We mainly these new feddans. I think most of them will be crops like wheat, like corn, like vegetables. We reduce because we would like to
maize,
reducing
wheat,
our
yes.
import from these strategic crops. This is a main. This is mega projects. It needs something like 1 million of laborers working there, between engineers, laborers, and farmers, and all these things. I think it needs very big efforts from the government to achieve this.
Dr. Ghoneim, we were on track. We were on track until even the beginning of the year 2020, and then suddenly a pandemic, and then this Ukraine war, and we got stuck like all the world. But this economic reform that Egypt has carried out with has given a kind of life breath for us to withstand some of the challenges that we have passed through. Let me here take your reading to the projects that were carried out to elevate the standard of living for citizens. For instance, you spoke about decent life. Decent life care covering around 60 million people.
Yeah.
In
all the people living in the countryside.
How do you view how Egypt has tried as much as possible to alleviate the standard of living of people and at the same time help in reducing the burden that is on the citizens?
I think this initiative is very important to people living in countryside, because we shall change a major change in their lives. We supply them with electricity, with sewage systems, with clean water supply systems, and even we build a new hospital there, medical care centers and schools. This shall change mainly their daily life. And I think in this governor, especially the rural and the villages, the government built something like craft zones for the people there to have their something like their jobs, creating jobs there. And I think they built again all the government entities branched there to serve the people, especially in the country there, near their places. I think we trying to easing their lives and helping especially the neediest people, especially the orphans and the people with disabilities, to find jobs there, and to, I think the government give them some monthly aids as a social.
We're speaking about Takaful and Karama.
Yeah,
This is
Takaful and
another,
Karama and another initiatives
yes,
there.
indeed.
I think something like, if we said around 60 million people, it is 2/3 of the population. If we're trying to offering them decent life, this is a very good initiative, because it costs something like more than 1 trillion Egyptian pound.
Indeed.
At the same time, we doing a mega project, something like we developing all the infrastructure all over the country, in highway roads, railway, sea ports, dry ports, and even in the digital infrastructure. And I think all these mega projects offer something more than 5 million new jobs for the engineers and laborers and all these things. And again, these mega projects, it is more necessary for the foreign investment.
Yes.
Without these projects, we cannot attract foreign investment. We're preparing our infrastructure, we're preparing our ports, we're preparing the transportation, we're easing and saving the citizen time and citizen health, moving from place to place, moving from home to work in easy way. I think all this, now it is the basics of decent life.
Indeed. We are aware that the President has called on the civil society and the private sector to participate and engage in the work of or the efforts that are exerted of the government in parallel. Before we move on to this area, let me here take this beautiful initiative that will come out tomorrow, that comprises more than 34 entities from the civil society and more, Shoulder in Shoulder initiative. Let's watch.
On Friday, Egypt is expected to witness the launching of Shoulder to Shoulder massive social initiative as part of the National Alliance for Civil Development Work efforts before the holy month of Ramadan. The event, which is also expected to be attended by President Abdel al-Sisi and other 50,000 volunteers, will be organized at Cairo International Stadium. The initiative aims at distributing more than 4 million boxes of food supplies to the most vulnerable groups and families all over the country during March in order to mitigate the effects of the global economic crisis, that left waves of inflation and raised prices. Shoulder to Shoulder is a social protection initiative that targets the most vulnerable groups in society and the low-income families and help them to face the current economic crisis. The initiative is also a result to the collaboration between civil society in Egypt embodied in the National Alliance for Civil Development Work, which was launched in March 2022, and the Egyptian government. The National Alliance for Civil Development aims, through this initiative, along with all its other social initiatives, to increase the number of families targeted to be out of the poverty circle permanently. The Alliance also aims at securing social protection umbrellas for the neediest families and groups within the society and increase the activities and programs of the coalition during the next 5 years to achieve all of its goals with a total cost of 200 billion Egyptian pounds. The Shoulder to Shoulder initiative focused on expanding its database and focused that it would be clear, accurate and not repeated in previous initiatives. A new and accurate database of beneficiaries was created based on the data available in more than 30 associations and institutes all over the country. The National Coalition for Developmental Civil Work was launched on March 13, 2020. Of nearly 34 civil work institutions that operate in various fields. The alliance, which is considered the first of its kind in Egypt, represents a strong impetus to strengthen social protection programs and unite efforts to reduce the economic burdens on citizens. Since the inauguration of the alliance, it has had a major role in enriching civil work and provided an opportunity for partnership between civil society institutions to support the most needy groups. The Alliance has also devoted its efforts to achieving sustainable development goals through concerted societal efforts, especially after President El-Sisi's declaration 2022 as the year to civil society. The alliance includes the General Federation of Associations, all regional and specific federations, and the most prominent leading civil society institutions and associations with well-known efforts and successful experiences in helping the limited inside the country.
Right, welcome back, and back to you, Dr. Ghoneim, and as we've seen, shoulder in shoulder tomorrow. This is one of the biggest initiatives that were made, or one of the largest initiative of social protection in the history of Egypt. And it's just it will be launched tomorrow. How do you view such an initiative? How do you view the engagement of all segments in the society, of all sectors in the society, in such a huge event?
I think in Egypt there is, since long time, there is cooperation and participation between the government and the private sector and the NGOs for helping the needy people and helping the ruler and all the countryside, which they need foodstuff, they need in winter clothes. Sometimes they offering jobs and healthcare equipment. I think all the NGOs in Egypt playing a big role to support the government. And this shoulder by shoulder initiatives, I think it is very good initiatives coming in the right time, because all over the world now suffering from the international crisis. Yeah, even the European countries suffering, the Asian countries suffering, and all the developing countries suffering from the shortage of foodstuff, shortage of energy, and shortage in most of the main crops. This is the main issue all over the world now. And all the prices going up, and all the people suffering from this, because the inflation rate it's increasing in a marvelous way. We cannot stop it. And all the hot money returned back to America. No foreign investment now in the countries of Africa.
Not really, but we'll wait and see, especially after the collapse of one of the banks in the United States, and we're waiting to see. We're waiting to see.
Anyway,
definitely, the rise of the interest rate by the Fed
America
is something,
since 1 year now raising
the interest rate.
Profit rate.
Yes, indeed. If we speak about the NGOs and the civil society, then we have to speak about also the private sector. And how do you view the role that should be played by the private sector, or what do we need at this upcoming stage for the private sector to increase its contribution?
Yeah, now the government sharing with around 35% from the projects, and the private sector sharing from the Egyptian economy by more than 65%. I think this is the biggest of the economic cake in Egypt. The private sectors, more than 2/3 of the employment in Egypt working in the private sector. And this is the main issue for our developing, to increase GDP, to offer employment, new jobs, job employment. I think the sharing of the private sector and NGOs they playing a big role in the Egyptian economy.
We're seeing a kind of expansion to the developmental projects and the social protection umbrella across all governorates of Egypt, from Sinai to Upper Egypt, and from the very north to the very south. How do you view that, and what does this indicate?
Yeah, I think we need this social umbrella. They must cooperate between the government, private sector, and NGOs, and to help the neediest people, especially the orphans, the people with disabilities, and the poor women there. I think they need to help them to find jobs, to help them to learn how to do jobs like the handcraft there in all these
Actually,
areas.
startups and entrepreneurship is one of the issues that has been very much supported by the government and by the financial institutions of the government.
They're trying to help the SMEs and pushing them, and even the central bank offered them more than 200 billion Egyptian pounds,
yes.
For these people, and supporting them to initiate their entrepreneur and SMEs. I think now we building a new industrial zones all over the governorate, from small shops, small workshops, to even medium factories. Most of these industrial zones now occupied and working, especially in the Upper Egypt. And this is we trying to, and even in Sinai. In Sinai we have mega projects now. Mega project, the new ports there, and Arish ports, and new factories, and
complexes, industrial complexes, the new Suez Canal,
and even the industrial area in Suez Canal.
Yes, the economic zone.
Absorb a lot of people working there.
Indeed. Dr. Ghoneim, because we're just a few minutes to end this episode, What do we need at this upcoming stage? And what could be out-of-the-box ideas in order to be able to further withstand what would be coming?
We need some patience, first of all, because the globe suffering. We are part of the globe. This is the first thing. Second thing, I think we must concentrate on education, on technological education and medical health care. I think this is the main issue. And again, the education and the educational education helping the industry to grow. We need to reducing our import, we increasing our export to fulfill the gap between the import and export volumes. I think we're trying to increasing our export now.
Yes, there is this...
This is the main issue, the
there
education.
is this path that we are going through, and there is this urge by the president in order, and of course the government, in order to carry out with more industrial
the government
projects
trying
and
the best,
agricultural
because
one.
now we're moving to the technological era. I think most of the projects now have the technology. This is why we must concentrate in the educational, especially the technological education.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Unfortunately, our time is out, and I have to end it here. Dr. Abdel Ghoneim, Vice President of the Arab Union for Digital Economy, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. And dear viewers, many thanks for watching. I guess next debate would be on Sunday. Many thanks for watching, and have a beautiful weekend.